Good afternoon, good evening, should I say. Good morning, good day, wherever you are in the world. And thank you so much for joining yet another live stream from a home in Italy, live here in beautiful Abruzzo, Italy. I'm getting repeating for some reason on my speaker, so hopefully that's going to disappear shortly. Um, Hope everybody can hear me okay. Before we start tonight's stream, there's something that I do want to say because I've had a number of emails, a number of messages contacting me with regards to an absolute tragedy that has happened in the local town to us to one of our clients, a client of a number of years ago moved out here who, uh, in unbelievable tragic circumstances, lost her life, was discovered yesterday. I'm not going to go into the uh, circumstances. Um, I'm getting a note from Tony that my sound is echoey, so I'm just going to change some settings. I'll be back with you in a second. Hopefully, you can hear me a little bit better. Maybe not. We may have to change that shortly. Um, yeah. So, in absolute tragic circumstances, we've lost a dear person. I'm not going to go into what's actually happened because I'm sure lots of you will probably read about it. What's happened in the local town of Cagliari, and for a number of reasons, we'll not go into that too much. I just felt it was right to to give our best. I'm sure our family and friends will not be thinking about watching this live stream this evening. But from myself and my wife, we just want to send our absolute deepest sympathies to a family and the friends. I'd say lost in absolute tragic circumstances, and hopefully justice will prevail. So I wanted to just say that for the first 2 minutes. And as we all know in life at the moment, with all these crazy things that's happening around the world keeps turning, life keeps moving on, and we have to keep doing that. So and it's support from family and friends, and support from communities as well that help people hopefully get through these tragic times. So yeah, I just want to say R.I.P. to I don't like using that. Rest in peace is better to Michelle, and yeah, that's from all I love from myself and Silvana as well. Okay, guys, so let's move on. Let's move on. We have to keep things moving, and let's get back into our usual Thursday live stream. And thank you so much for joining us. Absolute pleasure to be here again. If it's the first time that you've seen us, then welcome, welcome. Hopefully, you're going to join in every Thursday on these live streams. I've got a few announcements to go through in a second. Tony's saying that my sound is echoey, so I'm presuming other people are going to say the same thing. So what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't mind, I'm actually going to come out of this and come back. I hate doing this. So if you could just bear with us 1 second, we're obviously having technical problems. Just give me 1 second and I will be back to you shortly. Let's see if that's any better. Tony, am I getting a thumbs up? Are we any better? I'm getting thumbs up. We seem to have a bit of a problem with a delay from my end. And I think it's still there. So unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to keep having the conversation. I think what I'm going to have to do is boot myself out and come in. So Tony, if you can stay on there, I'm actually going to knock myself out, and not literally knock myself out. I'll be back to you shortly. Just give me a few minutes, folks. Just hold on there. Just a few technical problems. Technical problems. I will be with you shortly. Okay, guys, I think I may have resolved it. Tony, can you hear me and can you see me? I've got thumbs up. And that's because for some strange reason, I'd got this running on in the background as well. So I had two versions of this going. So hopefully now that should be it. That should be the gremlins out of the way. Apologies to everybody. I do hope everybody is still there because I'm showing that there's 0 people watching. But if you are there, please come back in. Yep, I can see people now. Perfect. Okay. Everybody's saying it's a little bit better sound now. Okay. Hopefully that's going to be sorted, and hopefully our beginning message got through to the people that it should get through to. But there you go. Okay, so let's get started. Let's get a few. We've got Tony in the background, who's the sound guy, as we all know. The what do we call him? The producer. And also the bringer of ridiculous sound. So he's back in the room and back with a glass of wine. So he's back in his perfect environment, because we all know what it's like when oh no, he's actually holding up a glass of water. There's no way that's water. That's grappa, definitely. A few things to go through. So let's run through some of these things that I want to tell you. Once I find it on my screen, it's all going really well today, isn't it? Anyway, okay. So let's first talk about something new. Something new. Can I have the screen, Tony, for a second? Here we go. So, rental opportunities around the Sulmona and Palombaro area. An absolute dear, great friend of the channel has got a number of properties that are for rent, and they are absolutely fantastic properties around the Sulmona area. As I said, around Palombaro, lots of villages around the Sulmona area. You deal direct with him. He's an American guy, so he speaks perfect English. If you are interested in renting properties for a month, 2 months, 3 months, wherever it may be, then please get in touch with us. The email at the bottom, info@ahomeinitaly.com. And if you contact me with your telephone number, hopefully with WhatsApp connected to it, then I'll put this guy in touch with you, because he's got some great places. I get asked so many times if there's any properties available that's not part of Airbnb and things like that. This guy's got some fantastic places to rent, and he's giving our clients, our listeners, special rates. So please contact us at info@ahomeinitaly.com with your telephone number, hopefully with WhatsApp installed, and I will get him to contact you and obviously give you his details when you email as well. So that's something new. I will be mentioning that as time goes on, and we are going to be putting photographs and things like that on the website as soon as possible. While we're talking about the website, it's actually being updated, believe it or not. It is happening as promised. So by mid to late November, we will be ready with a new website. There's loads of new things coming on there, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic. Marcy's on. What did Marcy say then, Tony? I didn't quite get to it. Marcy's mentioned David Nixon already. We're getting a few people that's blowing this guy's trumpet. I'm going to rephrase it. Blowing this guy's trumpet. That's just a phrase. Here we go. Marcy's the first one. I've used Currencies Direct several times and it works great. David Nixon is fantastic. I can see him on his little camera now with a smile on his face. I'm sure he's going to have lots of supporters tonight. David Nixon is, of course, from Currencies Direct. Who's the person who I'm going to be bringing in about 5 minutes' time, who's going to tell us everything about how you could potentially save thousands, and I literally mean thousands, on foreign exchange. So what do I mean by that? When you're changing from your currency to hopefully euros and buying somewhere in Italy. But even if not, even if you're buying somewhere else in the world, this guy can help you. So that's what we're doing tonight. So that is, I should have put this on before. Tony, if I could just pinch the screen again. So as mentioned, tonight is Save Thousands on Foreign Exchange with our special guest, David Nixon. That's coming up really shortly. Last bit of notice, bit of information I want to give you, or notice, is regarding the tours. I keep talking about these tours all the time. If you don't know what they are, why not? Why haven't you been listening? But if you don't know what they are, if you go onto our website, www.ahomeinitaly.com, don't just put home in Italy, because that brings up another site. You don't want that one. You want ahomeinitaly.com. Click on tours and you can download the PDF. I will tell you all about the tours that we're holding next year. We've just finished our last one for 2023 last week. What a fantastic group they were. We did two in October. They're both absolutely brilliant, packed full of brilliant people, and all gone away with their healthy dose of finish your sentence, healthy dose of Abruzzo. So don't forget, next year, book on these tours. We've done the dates up to May, up to now. January and March are full. We're not doing one in February. Don't know why we decided not to do one in February, but it's usually because potentially that can be the month that can be, if there's going to be any snow, it could be sort of round about that time. So January and March are completely full, unfortunately. But I have added an extra date, April the 18th and 19th. So if you go onto the website, I've actually updated it already, which is unbelievable. I can see that the look on Tony's face is the look of amazement. But I went on there today, booked it, and it's all ready to book. So if you go on there, you can book for 18th or 19th. I know some of you have already booked for May and want to change to April. That's absolutely fine as long as you get in touch quickly. Now it's available. Send me an email to the info@homeandity.com. Just tell us that you booked the places in May, blah, 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 and you'd like to change them to April, and we can do that with no problem at all. So have a look at that, www.homeandity.com, click on tours, and just check out what we're doing next year, because they're going to be absolutely fantastic. Okay, so I'm out of breath now. What do I do now, Tony? What do I need to do? Right, let's get the chat box. I'm going to be looking at the chat box. Oh, this. I'm going to just show this one as well. What's this? Tony, miss you and thanks for the great driving. That was somebody had the unfortunate experience of being in the car with Tony on one of these tours, and he's chanting away in the background with his hands up in the air. I will say as well, this is Janine, the tax accountant, has been so responsive. Thank you for the contact. So first of all, hi Janine, nice to hear from you. And I'm so glad about that, because Gianluigi is going to be coming on here. He's always the busiest man in the world, but I'm hoping to drag him on here, kicking and screaming, talking about all rubbish to do with taxes and paying taxes and all that boring, horrible stuff. Hopefully by the end of November. Latest, he's told me, is the beginning of December. So we will see. So that's Mr. Grim Reaper himself, Gianluigi, who's going to come on and share his pearls of wisdom about paying those horrible things called taxes. Okay, let's get started. I think it's time to bring on, let me just see with this last comment. Zach, hi David, thank you for the tour last week. I had a great time with some interesting properties, still in love with the property in Vittorito. Thank you, Zach. It was an absolute pleasure. It was great to meet you and your mum as well. Hope everybody's doing okay over there. Jeff is saying, will this be available on the site? Not sure what you mean, Jeff. If you mean this, yeah, that's a point, actually. If you mean a copy of this, it's available on YouTube. If you want to catch up on any lives that you may have missed, you just need to go onto our YouTube channel, click on live, and they're all on there. So every time that we do one of these on a Thursday night, they will all be there. Hi to Tony and all the Mystery Machine posse. Hi, Ali. Okay, let's go. Let's get David Nixon in the studio. 1 second, and we can bring him in. Here he is. How are you doing, David?
I'm really well, thank you. How are you, David?
All good, all good, all good. My fellow Brit, I should say, sat over there in Florida, enjoying his life. Anyway, tell us a little bit about yourself, David.
Well, if it isn't apparent to the British people that might be watching, I am from the northeast of England, which, by the way, has the most trustworthy accent in the whole of the world, which I'm sure you and Tony can appreciate. But
let me pick you up on this. I understand that it was the Yorkshire accent that was the trustworthy one. Has it suddenly gone further north now?
I think so, definitely gone further north. And if you think about it, geography, we're pretty close together if you think about the whole scheme of the world. So, you know, I think that's the region. Northern England, that's the place to be from.
We'll share the title then.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Sorry for interrupting. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, no worries at all. Where was it? But yeah, I was lucky enough to leave the UK, like so many other people that have had that opportunity to go and live and work abroad. I worked in Spain for many years, but I've been in the United States now since 2009. Absolutely love living over here. I have an American wife. I have 2 wonderful American children who both speak with an American accent. And I'm lucky enough to be part of like a really good community of Brits that live out here in Florida. And now more than ever, you know, we're dealing with not just, you know, expats that live and work in the United States. We're also dealing with a lot of Americans now that are lucky enough to be having their own adventure by investing in Europe. And that's been something that we've loved seeing as a company, because those are the people that we've been really able to, you know, give the benefit of our expertise when it comes to sort of like the endeavors that they're looking to do. So a really great job that I have here. I'm thankful for it, and obviously thankful for you continuing to invite me on the show. We don't take it lightly, and we work for all of your clients as hard as we possibly can. So again, just from me to you and all the people in the background, you might see it, Currencies Direct in the United States, we just want to say a big thank you to you for your continued support.
And thank you guys as well for being so honest with our clients, and so many people rave on about you, and that's fantastic. That helps us as well, and that's why we like to have you on here. So obviously the company is Currencies Direct. Can you tell us a little bit about Currencies Direct?
Yeah, so Currencies Direct, we are part of a larger international payments and foreign exchange company industry, if you like. We compete against the banks, and we compete against banks for foreign exchange and international transfers. So if you were to compare a company like Currencies Direct to that of a bank, there are a few things that we do better. Number one is price. The exchange rates we offer are much better than a bank. Number two is speed. The transfers that we do are much quicker, faster, and more efficient than a bank. And finally, when it comes to security, which is a huge factor when you consider clients that are transferring, sometimes $500,000 across the world, the security of our transfers is much better than a bank, because unlike a bank, companies like ours have to ensure 100% of the funds involved in the transaction at any one time. And the way that Currencies Direct stands out in our particular crowd is that we try to be the #1 facilitator of property transactions globally. So that means that we're working with great people like yourself, but it also includes working with your clients that are pre-qualified, have a large transfer to do from one country to another, and they're typically involved in the purchase of a property. And within that, there are a lot of pitfalls in the process. So what we do as a company is talk to our clients, get to know them, let them have a discussion about how they're planning to transfer their money. And we try to make sure that they don't fall into any pitfalls and get all of the best advice that they might need going forward, because it's a black hole out there. If you start looking online for the answers to questions that you might have, listen, you can come to us. I've been doing this a very, very long time, and we've got the information to give you and your clients to make sure that they're steered in the correct direction, obviously.
Excellent. So TF Dewey is saying, I'm looking for a reliable Forex broker to switch between euros and pounds. Well, here you go. Here's your man. So let's talk about, let's go to some of the basics for people that don't know, because one thing I did realize, and we've spoken about this before, is that it seems to be not the in thing to do in the States. I know you're based in the States. In the UK, there are millions of foreign exchange companies, and whenever we've done exhibitions in the past, you're sort of overrun with FX companies. But when I started dealing with Americans, let's say now we deal probably 90%. We're not just talking to Americans tonight. We're obviously talking to all the world. But the one thing I found unusual about dealing with clients from the US is that the foreign exchange thing wasn't really, I don't know, it's almost like they didn't know about it. Why is that? Is it something new that's happening over there, or why for what reason? Because in the UK, as I said, there's millions of
I think what I always talk about is, if you, from the point of someone in the United Kingdom, ever since, we started going abroad in the 70s, 80s, 90s, we were always familiar with the currency exchange element, whether it was francs, pesetas, lira, Deutschmark, whatever it might be. Yeah, and even then, as a kid, I can still remember that, £1 was 200 pesetas or 10 francs or whatever it might be, so, that was always ingrained in us. And as if you think about the UK back then, with their major trading bloc being the European countries, we established this sort of foreign exchange and international payments model that is very successful and has been repeated loads and loads of times throughout Europe. However, in the United States, it is a brand new thing, because, when I first moved here in 2008, there was this big thing about, less than 50% of Americans even having passports. There was this big thing about the fact that they didn't purchase properties in Spain and Italy. They didn't move their money. And a lot of the times it was the other people that were coming to move to the United States. So Brits moving to Florida, because as you remember, £1 was $2. It was a lot of people investing in the United States as opposed to Americans investing the other way, which is a huge thing that we've discovered in the market. I think generally people just think that their bank is the right place to go to. And there are a number of reasons, obviously, why a bank isn't the best position to be in if you've got a large transfer to make, because that's where things can start to go wrong, because they aren't expertise in this one field, which is foreign exchange and international payments. A bank obviously has a broad range of services, as opposed to what we do is just specialize in this one thing that we do really, really well, that actually happens to be a big part of, any transaction for a foreigner buying property abroad.
Yeah. This is an interesting one from Gina Fiore, because I've actually noticed this in over here as well. She's saying, I'm in upstate New York and none of my banks could order euro. Unreal. US is not up on currency exchange. Crazy. But I also noticed here we had some friends of my son, actually, that they were having a school trip back to the UK and they wanted to order pounds. That seems to, I don't know what it is now. The banks don't seem to have the cash, not have the cash. That's stupid to say, but it seems to be difficult to get hold of foreign currency. Any reason for that, or is it something that?
Yeah, it's really expensive. So if you think about, for example, going to an airport, if you look at the exchange rate at the airport, you're looking at it and you're thinking, oh my goodness me, like they're selling it for this price but buying it at that price. There's a huge margin in there, and that is just because cash is actually very expensive to account for, to change. By the time that they've got it into their banking systems, there could be huge volatility, which means, again, they're having to build this huge spread into things. And like right now, if you were just to go abroad and use your credit card, you can do that. Your exchange rate isn't going to be very good, but you know what I mean? If you're only buying 100 euros for a dinner here or there, then if they're charging $5 for that service, then that's not terrible. And I think that's the convenience that a lot of people start to travel with. It's before, when we were going abroad, it was all travelers checks, or you would order your cash from the bank and it would be in a shiny little see-through envelope and it was always brand new. That doesn't happen anymore. So
we have our travelers checks and our new tracksuits that mum bought us, and
that's right. That's right.
Is that
all
just
of
a
that
northern thing? Is that might just be a northern UK thing? Anyway, so let's get to basics. Janine is just saying, just a quick one here. Is the account established in a foreign country or US based once the funds are transferred? And can one place a buy similar to the stock market? I want to buy at 3% or less. Can you?
So a client is registered in the location that they are. So let's just say you are a US resident. You would be registered under your US address. That's where we would run all of our checks to verify who you are as a person. And because of that, wherever we do business, that's where we're regulated and licensed. So in the United States, for example, we are regulated by FinCEN, which is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, and in each individual state that we do business as well. So wherever the account is based, that's one thing. One thing we don't do as a company is buy and sell currency like you would do on a stock market, for example. We're an international payments company, which means if there's foreign exchange, we have to be sending it somewhere. So there has to be a reason for the transfer, which in a lot of cases is living funds, bill payments, or buying a property, for example. We don't allow people to use our services to speculate on what they think the currency might do. So just to buy and sell, buy and sell.
Okay.
In terms of the margin that you mentioned there, 3%. 3% is pretty much, what you would get from a good US bank. Our exchange rates are far more competitive than that. So in terms of making sure that, when you are buying, the exchange rate you're going to get is going to be far superior to a 3%, which is a good bank rate, but still not good in terms of what a foreign exchange company would offer you in comparison.
Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to hold the questions a little bit, because obviously some people are keen to ask personal questions, which is fine. But I think we're going to cover quite a few of the questions that's coming in at the moment. So we're going to let's take this back to basics. So Gino is asking, how about Canada? Somebody else is asking, my mother gifted me US dollars in Turkey. Can I send it to Currencies Direct? And so on and so on and so on. So we're not just talking about US clients. We're talking about clients pretty much from anywhere in the world. So you can do, if there's somebody sat in Australia now, before we go,
Yeah.
I will go to the basics of how it all works. But just on this side, if somebody sat in Australia now watching this, or somebody sat in wherever in the world watching this, you could pretty much look after them, can't you, to change?
Yeah, unless they're from a really like a high risk jurisdiction, for example,
Okay.
somebody that might be in a banned or sanctioned country, for example, there's a really good chance that we can help. In fact, I think I mentioned on the last webinar that we've helped people from somewhere like 15 different countries just from this webinar alone. So whether that was New Zealand dollars into euros, or I saw somebody with Bulgarian lev, for example, that needs transferring into euros, Turkish lira, again, into pounds, dollars, wherever it might need to go. Wherever there's a currency exchange element involved, there's a really good chance that we can help as a company.
Superb. So we're pretty much covering anyway. I know there's parts of the US, some states in the US that have different licenses, you told us before, and you can't necessarily deal with them. But we have a contact that we can pass on to you. So if everybody looks, once you've finished watching this stream, in the description box on YouTube and on Facebook, you will see a link there to open a free account with Currencies Direct. Now, it is an affiliate link. I do want to say that. That doesn't mean to say you get a bad rate, because you get the best rate. The great thing is when they know, or when David knows that you're one of our listeners, then you've basically got access to David, which is why we have him on all the time, because we want to be able to, we're people, and I know you're the same, David, as well. It's great to be able to push a company, but then it can be frustrating when all of a sudden your first phone call you dealt with somebody else, which I understand that can happen, but people have access to you as and when needed. I know you love it when I send you WhatsApp messages in the middle of the night and ask you to call somebody. But if you're going to register people, if you register using the link in YouTube, the YouTube description or Facebook, or if you can't find it on there, send us an email to info@homeanity.com. Or when you're registering, if your state or your country is not in the box, send us an email and we'll give you a link. So let's break this down for people. As we said before, banks also do this kind of thing. So your main aim is to beat the bank rate. So let's say somebody in, I'm not going to say US, somebody in the UK is sat there now. They want 100,000 euros to buy a property in Italy from us, through us. What do they need to do? Just tell this applies to everybody in the world. What happens? What's their first step?
So first step is to register for your free account. So there's no obligation to trade if you open this account, but this gives you access then to speak to a personal account manager that can answer any questions that you have. And if you don't like going online to do big, large transactions, like send $50,000 or whatever it might be, euros, then you also have the ability to talk to us and we can book transfers online or over the telephone with you. So that's the first thing. So to register for an account, some very basic details about yourself. It's name, address, date of birth. It's your occupation and some contact details for you. We use those details to verify your identity. Now, most clients in most parts of the world have to also provide us with a proof of ID and a proof of residential address. And we use those two forms of identification in line with our regulations to open up accounts for people. That opens the account. It's open, it's live, it's active. From there, you get a chance to go online. You can have a look at the exchange rate whenever you like. Or if you want to speak to somebody, you can call up, you can quote a customer number, and you can talk about what your plans are moving forward so that we can give you the benefit of our advice. Maybe it's a case of, hey, don't do it just yet. Wait till this is done. Wait till you have an offer in on a property. You know, make sure you might want to get your euros in advance, for example. So depending on the customer, where they're based in the world, what they're looking to do, we'll tailor our advice specifically for that person. And that's important because money's always coming from different places, businesses, trusts, and you don't want to be in a position where all of a sudden, you know, your transfer is delayed because, you know, something, you know, came along unexpected during the process. That's delayed the closing, and I can imagine how annoying that is for you that's sitting in the notary's office in Italy and all of a sudden the money isn't showing up. So from our point of view, it's to make sure that the transaction before you make it is going to go smoothly so that on closing day, the money is in the right place wherever it needs to go, or whatever the circumstance might be around that particular transfer. But opening an account takes about 5 minutes. And then from then, it's just a case of whenever you need our assistance, you can talk to us at any time. So it's a simple process.
Okay. So Brad's bringing up a great point, and we're going to go through some of these different techniques and things like this. I think the key thing from what you're saying there, because we all know that there's these cards now in place where people get great exchange rate from these cards, and we've had this discussion before. You've got one of these particular cards, I've got one. They're great when you're on holiday. You spend 100 euros, 200 euros, maybe 500, maybe 1,000. But when you're dealing in large sums, then you need to talk to somebody. This shouldn't be done on an app. This needs to be done with a professional. Now, obviously, lots of people will look at these cards and think, but I'm getting the best rate there. And they think, okay, I've got my card in place, so now I'm not going to think about it. What Brad is bringing up is a great point, and for me, what your strengths are. And he said, David, can someone secure euros when the exchange rate is good, but not quite ready to buy a property?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that we always encourage people to do is to, try and get their ducks in a row. I think you're somebody that's always like that as well. You want to pre-plan, make sure everything is ready. So one thing you can do if you like today's exchange rate is you can go ahead and you can purchase the euros. They sit in your euro wallet with Currencies Direct, which you can log in online. You can see the euro balance, so it's your money. And whenever it's ready to send, you can go and send it. Other things that we do, and like a bank or another broker, for example, is that we do things called forward contracts as well. And this is great that a lot of Americans are doing right now for a number of reasons. But a forward contract allows somebody to lock in today's rate for up to a 2-year time span. So if you like today's exchange rate, maybe you don't have all of the money right now, or maybe you want to put that money to work somewhere else, you can lock in today's exchange rate for a 10% deposit. That's good for up to 2 years, for example. And with the other 90%, if you want, you can go and stick that in a savings account now, generate 4 or 5% worth of interest. And you've kind of like naturally hedged your position, if you like. So yeah, the exchange rate might move up and down, but you've captured the interest in on it anyway. So another way that really smart people are going about doing their business, and I know particularly dealing with a lot of your clients, is we've probably got 30 clients that have registered for accounts that have never used them and might not use them again for another year or so down the line. But just having the account there ready and waiting is a great way for them to familiarize themselves with the platform when the topic of looking for property comes up, and they can see something on your website. It's 60,000 euros. They can go and plug that number straight into their online platform. Right, that's our number that we need to afford now. You know what? I love that exchange rate. I'm going to go ahead and lock in the rate right now. Again, this is protecting you from a lot of worry and stress down the line, because things are extremely volatile in the world right now. Whenever we see like wars and turmoil, the US dollar tends to spike, gets very strong, which is what we've seen. The US dollar index has strengthened about 5 or 6% just over the last 3 or 4 months, for example. So right now, a very strong position for the US dollar, where I'm obviously based, versus the euro and the pound. So yeah, we're here to help with that sort of instance if somebody is looking for a very good solution to lock in a rate, for example.
And that is a great, and I'm going to come to Tom's point as well, because this is a good one. I mean, that's a great way of the thing. You don't get this kind of information on an app. Nobody's going. You just buy but what you're saying is, let's say I'm definitely going to buy a property somewhere in Europe. Hopefully, everybody's going to definitely do it in Italy. But if I know I'm going to do this. But maybe I'm not ready now. Maybe I'm waiting for my house sale to come through. Maybe I'm waiting for some inheritance money, some savings, whatever it may be. What you're saying is, if the exchange rate is brilliant today, I can ring you up and say, I want to lock that rate now, and I'm going to lock it with 10%. So I'm going to give you, if I want 100,000 euros, I'm going to give you 10,000. Let's say I want $100,000 to change to euros or whatever currency. I send you 10%, and then I don't have to send you anything else until basically I want it. Is that correct?
Exactly right. You've got that absolutely right. So and to Tom's point there,
So Tom, to say that, can I keep 100k in euro in Currencies Direct account? If so, for how long? So really, he doesn't have to give you the 100,000 now, does he? He can just give you 10%.
Absolutely.
And then just sort of keep the rest, the other 90k, and put it in something until he doesn't it. But he's blocking the full 100k. Is that correct?
Yes. That's exactly right. And if he did want to transfer the money, I've got it, I just want it in euros, we can absolutely do that. But the negative to holding that amount of money on account with us is we don't gain any interest on that because it's a segregated account. It's an escrow account in essence. So we're not making any money off it. The client isn't going to make any money off it, as opposed to this way, you can put your money to work, but also lock in an exchange rate as well.
That's just, I mean, so really everybody watching this, whether it's live tonight or whether they're watching it, it's just a no-brainer. They just need to fill out that link, fill out the form. That's free of charge, and start, because this kind of planning, they can literally, I know we've said it in the title, save thousands, but you can literally save thousands by using techniques like this to hold the money and lock these rates in. It's absolutely fantastic. Let's just have a quick look at this one. Brian said, do you have a minimum transaction amount to use your services, monthly or ad hoc transactions, rather than just big ticket stuff like a house purchase?
Yeah, we do that as well. It's not business that we tend to, go looking for. So, for example, we don't do a lot of online advertising saying we do foreign exchange and international payments, because all of a sudden we get inundated with inquiries of people wanting to transfer $100 or they need $200 in cash for a trip. That's not business that we want to get involved in. We want to get involved in the big ticket stuff, obviously, but it's just the nature of our business that our clients also have smaller amounts to do. And we like to have the opportunity to work with those people so they can see the process, see that it works smoothly, that it's easy, and that happens with a lot of clients. So no minimum amount per se. I think I probably sent £100 to the UK once or twice for a nephew's birthday if I've forgotten it. So that kind of thing.
Okay, so Gina again is coming up with I think I know the answer to this one, but we'll ask it anyway. So if she put 10% in to secure today's exchange rate, what if it gets better? Basically, do they get the better rate? So if she locks it in today and then tomorrow or the day after the rate's even better, and she thinks, why did I do it yesterday, as so many people do, does she get the better rate?
No, that's not possible, fortunately. It's really just to protect against like negative volatility in the market. So if you've got your heart set on a place and you've got a budget and you're happy at that budget point, you don't want to be in a situation where there's been a 10% change in the currency, value over, a 12-month period. And all of a sudden the property that you're looking at or the budget that you had just becomes unaffordable. So it really is just to lock it in against worry, because unfortunately, not me, I never predict what's going to happen with the exchange rate, because most of the time I'll end up with like egg on my face. And, unless your client knows more about what's going to happen with the exchange rates in the future than I do, which maybe they do, it's very difficult to mention that.
But obviously it works in the other way as well, because if somebody locks in a rate today and then the rate is worse the day after, you're still saying, no, that's the rate that you bought at. So they're still getting that's just the gamble, isn't it, if you want to say that?
That's right.
Again, I think we probably know the answer to this one, but I'll ask you anyway. Roger's saying, what happens if something happens and we can't buy? Can we get our money back?
And with a forward contract, for example, all we do is we've already, in essence, let's just say you've got a forward contract for 100,000 euros. We simply sell the euro back at whatever the date is that you've decided that you can't buy a property, whatever the exchange rate is at that point, we send the money back, and then we will take any losses from the deposit of 10%. However, there's a 50% chance that the money actually has gone in your favor. So in that instance, you would get more than your money back. So although
you actually give more if a deal's cancelled then, and it's in their favor, they'd actually get more back because of the transfer rate of that date. Okay.
We just don't want to lose out any money as a company. That's why we collect that 10% deposit. So that's the purpose of that. If you're a client, for example, and you've bought 200,000 or 100,000 euros and you have it sitting there, something falls through. I did mention before that we're a payments company. We need a reason for the transfer, but we do understand that does happen from time to time. So if that has happened, then we would just simply exchange the money back at whatever the exchange rate is for that person moving forward. But hopefully, that's something that impacts very few people whose property transactions fall through.
Okay. So Tam is saying, what city are you in Florida? Can we see you in person?
Absolutely. I'm in Orlando, Florida, in a small town called Windermere, which is a beautiful part of the world with lots of beautiful golf courses. So if you're in the area, you're more than welcome to come to our office. If you're in the Orlando, greater Orlando area, absolutely, I can even drive to come and see you. We like to meet our clients face to face. We like to hear about what their plans are, and we like to get to know them. So I think it's always a pleasure to talk to people that are about to make this huge move. And, one thing that I've managed through this channel, for example, is I've made a lot of, business friends just from clients that are looking to make transfers. And it's been really great to, hear what they're doing and to help them along the journey as well. So we're very privileged to be able to do that.
Superb. Eric's saying, although David couldn't help me in West Virginia, like I said, if you find that Currency Direct can't help you, contact us at info@homeanditaly.com, and a mutual friend of ours can help you. But even though he couldn't help in West Virginia, he took the time to call me and discuss this process. Thanks to David. So there you go. That's another one saying thank you. And I know Lewis, who you know very well, has told me that I must rave on about you, so I'm not going to do it too much. But
don't.
That Lewis is extremely happy with you guys, so that's another one. Just so we can just not stamp on this one, but I know Gina's saying, I see, so it's a gamble. Appreciate that. LOL. So, but it's not real. I mean, I suppose anything that you do when it comes to should I change the money, shouldn't I change the money? I know when we bought this house, it drove me insane looking at the exchange rate. I was looking at it for months before, thinking I knew what I was doing, and I didn't have the faintest idea. Luckily, then it was the good old days of the UK pound bought you sort of €1.40, 45. I think we got €1.50 almost, which is just unbelievable. Wow. But not only did I have, I don't know how many sleepless nights before I exchanged, but then once I'd exchanged, I had another 3 months sleepless nights thinking if I would have just waited another day, then I would have. But I think the key thing, what you've said is, if you're happy with the transaction, if you're happy with the property you bought and you're happy with the price, and you think, okay, I'm happy with that exchange rate, I think the key is to do it. And then just don't watch TV anymore, isn't it, basically?
That's exactly the right thing to do. I mean, I think when I moved over here to the USA, the exchange rate was £1 was worth 163 as opposed to 123 today, for example. And I remember at the time kicking myself. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, if only I had transferred it when £1 was $2, And look, it always comes around in a big circle. So it's all quite interesting. So
it does drive you insane, but I do think that planning is the ultimate thing, definitely. So for those, again, the basic things are open the free account, which you can do using the link on YouTube or in the description box or in the description on Facebook. If you can't find that link, send us an email to the bottom, to info@homeanditaly.com that's shown at the bottom of the screen. Get that account open. If they're not ready yet and they just want to have a look at the app, they can still register. They don't have to pay money into there. They can just register and have you there ready, have a feel of the website, see what it looks like and all that kind of thing. So obviously you made yourself available to many clients and speaking to people that are just still not sure how this works and all the rest of it, but they don't have to pay any money in now. They can look and see how things work. And then they can use some of the options available that we've mentioned tonight. That's sort of buy now and almost buy now and pay later. Let's say I don't want to give you 10%. Let's say I'm sat in the UK now and I'm waiting for the euro to go to 120 for the pound, which incidentally I am. So if you have any tips when that's going to happen, then please let me know. But let's say I'm sat in the UK. I'm not in a rush. And I've seen the pound go to 117 and then it suddenly dropped back down again to 115. It's driving me insane. If I said to you, David, do me a favor, if it gets to 120, let me know because I want to change X amount. Is that an option? Can that be done?
Yeah, so we have two features available for most people. One is called a rate watch. So you can say, I want 120. And what would happen is we would set a rate watch for you. So when it hit 120, you would receive an email from us, a text messages from us, and a call from us to tell you, hey, it's gone to 120. You might be on the other flip side where you're going, listen, I'm leaving, so I'm going to go on a 3 month tour. on a cruise, for example, and you could say, David, when it gets to 120, I want you to go and buy it. Just go and do it for us. That's what we would call a limit order, where they can tell us the exchange rate they want. And if it was to achieve that exchange rate in the middle of the night, on Asian time, whatever it might be, then we would go ahead and complete that purchase of euros for you. And that's something that a lot of people are doing right now because of just lots of volatility, whether that's interest rate hikes, wherever that might be in the world, whether it's, the Israel-Palestine conflict, or whether it's the war in Ukraine, like all of those things, when they happen, create a huge change in the currency volatility. So a lot of clients, if they've gone ahead and they're not in a rush, they're inclined to kind of capture those areas where it gets very, very volatile. I can tell you last year, for example, when we had those mini budget in the UK, for example, and it crashed the pound against nearly every other currency that there was around the world, that triggered off a bunch of transactions of people that had set limit orders up and they'd taken advantage of this big 10% move in a very relatively small period of time. And for those people, bravo, if we've taken advantage of volatility in the world that has enabled them to get a much better exchange rate. And that kind of thing happens at least once a year, if not right now, 2 or 3 times a year, where you'll see huge spikes from, one currency pair to the other. Which
so
makes
if somebody's not sure, they don't want to do the 10% yet, but they say, you know what, if it hits that, I'll have some, I will have whatever. They
Absolutely.
can do that. So the choices are there. They either do it where you'll then call them as soon as you can and say you've got your rate, or they do a proper deal to say, if it hits that, buy it for me, which I suppose gives more flexibility, because if it hits the right rate through the night, as you said, it will automatically buy. So Brad's just quickly saying, did I understand correctly, there's some states you can't deal with? I'm in Texas. Can you deal with Texas?
Oh, of course. Texas is our 3rd largest state in terms of the amount of clients. So number 1, California, number 2, Florida, number 3, Texas. So Texas is a huge market for us, and primarily because there's a lot of expats that live in that part of the world. So people that are in the oil and gas industry from Bonnie, Scotland, or from the Gulf of, and the Middle East, for example. A lot of people end up in Texas from that industry. So we're very well established there. We have team members that are working in Houston in that particular area. And we're seeing a lot of clients, again, from Houston or Texas as a whole.
It is crazy. The last 2 tours that we've done, there was, I would say, half, especially the last one, I think half of them were from Texas, from the Houston area. It is it's crazy. So what states, can you remember offhand the states that you can't deal with? But again, obviously, anything that you say, anybody from those states, email us and we will give you another contact. So which states can't you deal with?
Come on, that's hard. If you asked me to name 50 states, I would struggle. But let me think: West Virginia, Idaho. The big one right now is Arizona. That is going to be the place where we're going to get a license next. So that's going to happen real soon. And I was also talking to you about the fact that we're going to have all 50 state licenses in the near future. So we won't have to turn away any Americans looking to buy. I think the main thing about the states is that right now we're licensed where 70% of the population lives. So yeah, there are some states, I'm trying to think, like North Dakota, for example, we don't have a license there. We're not inclined to get a license there, but we are going to get one just because it's just easier to get all 50 states sometimes. But that's where we're at as a company. We're putting a lot of investment in the United States because there's no other company doing it. So, we might as well be the company to be that company that could be the go-to for Americans buying abroad, because we see this as a continuing trend where we'll see a lot more of Americans, flying, getting very good bang for their buck because their US dollar is so strong, allowing people to retire early, start second businesses, go and live and work in a different part of the world. And as you know, like, I love living in the United States, but nothing beats living in Europe. Absolutely nothing. that lifestyle that you have and the siestas.
I agree. I wish I could have the siestas, though. That's the problem. Not quite got into the hang of that yet. So how about Canada, Sonia? Yeah, no problem in Canada. No problem with most of the countries. It's just the US. You said that, there's some states you don't have licenses. I know some people, there's a couple of people from Arizona, but again, don't feel that, you know, we can't help you, because listen to what David's saying, because our other contact, who is a very good friend of David's, at the moment, she's helping people that they can't do. But David will be able to soon. But don't switch off, because we need to listen to what he's saying. Okay, so we're not going to go through all the states all over there. Let's have a look at Eric's question. So you operate like a bank in the sense that you can keep a foreign currency savings account with Currencies Direct?
Yeah, it's not a savings account because, again, it's not making any interest. It's what we call a multi-currency wallet is what we call it. So if you needed 6 different currencies, we would provide you with 6 different wallets for the currencies that you need. I think we have something like over 250 currency pairs. So we deal with most currencies. We just give you an account where you can park your dollars. You can exchange them to euros, pounds, whatever it might be, and then you can hold balances of those currencies, but they don't accrue any interest. So I wouldn't consider them a savings account. We kind of just call it like a multi-currency wallet or a personal collections account, whatever you might want to call it. So it's with a major US bank is our US dollar account, for example. So your funds are held with a major US bank. It just gives us the opportunity in your stead to transfer the money on your behalf using our technology and getting the rates that we get as a company, as opposed to an individual who is just going to their bank. They're not going to get the same rate because they're not dealing in the same volume. I like to consider us a wholesaler of currency versus a bank, which is much more of a retailer of currency.
And the idea is, at the end of the day, when it's all about saving money, isn't it? If somebody goes to the bank and asks for how much is it going to cost me for 100,000 euros, no matter where they are in the world, they contact the bank will say it's going to cost you 97,000 whatevers to have 100,000 euros. They contact you, and hopefully you're going to say it's going to cost you 99 or 98 or something like that. It's all about getting that rate. A quick one here, what Bo's saying, Mexico, because I've had a few people ask for Mexico. Do you operate there?
We operate in Mexico, but not in New Mexico. I believe that is where Luis Otis is originally a settler of. So no, but again, that will be one of the licenses that we do have. You know, moving into next year, which is important for us because
it does say New Mexico, doesn't it? Sorry about that. So I thought it said Mexico. No problem. Okay, so let's just go back to a little bit of basics again. So let's say somebody has done this deal wherever they are in the world. They've done this deal. They've contacted you and they've said, "I've got this currency. I need to change it to euros." How do they physically get it to you?
So we bank with a US bank where a client would be sending their funds. So it's a simple wire transfer, a domestic transfer. So if you're from the UK, for example, you're sending pounds to a pound account that is held with Barclays, for example, in the United Kingdom. If you have US dollars and you're buying euros, you're sending your US dollars to a US dollar account with JP Morgan Chase, and then we're sending the euros on. So every client needs to do a domestic transfer. If they're based in the UK or the Eurozone, you can actually use a debit card to send us money. So it could be that quick, that instant. However, debit card limits are quite small. So probably not ideal if you're transferring the money for a property purchase, for example. And the final thing in the United States that they can do is we can actually accept a check, which is crazy, but the United States love checks. I don't know why. They love checks nearly as much as Halloween, which has been going on for about 2 months here in the United States, if you hadn't noticed. But you can send that check to Currencies Direct. We bank it, and then we can transfer the money. Because, again, people sometimes just prefer to use a check than going into a bank to make a wire transfer. So if you,
I thought Italy was, because Italy still uses checks a little bit. But
I thought
you never know. Travelers' checks may come back. We may start going back to those little envelopes.
Brilliant.
So they send the money. So wherever they are, so if they're in Canada, they'll send Canadian dollars to a Canadian dollar account. If they're in Australia, it's always a local. So the banks there can't say, "Oh, we're going to charge you because we're sending it overseas or we're doing it's a local currency account." So once they rank, so if I ring you up and say, "David, I need 100,000 euros," and you say that's going to cost you 90,000 pounds, for instance. I then send 90. You send me a document through that gives me confirmation of the deal. You give me the account number. I send my 90,000 pounds to you guys in pounds, and then you convert it and then forward it on. Is that correct?
Yeah, we actually convert it at the time that we're talking on the telephone, for example.
Okay.
So we go ahead even before we've received any money from you, and we buy your euros in advance, and then we give you a few days then to send that money to us.
Okay.
So we would like it immediately, but the reality is it sometimes does take people a couple of days to get down to their bank or to go online and get the right, options. But we will wait for the money. As soon as we receive it, we're then able to send it to wherever it might need to go. So whether it's to your own account in Italy, whether it's to a builder, a notaire, and wherever it might be going to, and we'll then facilitate that ongoing payment for our customer.
Perfect. So when I've sent you that money, then before you send it on to wherever it's going to, is it insured?
Yeah, so that FDIC, that's a particularly thing around the US. So in the United States, a bank has to insure a company's funds up to 240,000 US dollars. So if you hold money in an account, that is the limit that they will insure, or the FDIC will insure. With companies like ours, we're what is classed as a money services business, so we're not a bank. And because of that, the FDIC requires that 100% of the funds involved in any transaction are insured. So if you've got $1 million to transfer, they're actually safer on account with us than they would be with a bank, for example. So that's another
is that
thing
anywhere in the world? Is that even if somebody is sending you I don't know, Canadian dollars or
Yeah,
wherever?
if they're in the US, so for example, for a US resident, they would fall under that particular organization. In Canada, it's an organization called FinTrack, for example, that do their regulations and things like that. And in the UK, it would be the Financial Conduct Authority, as well as then you have different licenses for the whole of Europe, for example. And with it being a Eurozone, we have one license that covers us for the EU countries as well. So
it depends on what the country. So, for instance, in the Eurozone, you covered up to 100K that sat in the banks. Is that
but we're unlimited. The full amount of currencies direct.
Right.
Yeah.
So it is safer all the way around, isn't it? So it's cheaper to use you guys, and it's safer when you're doing the transaction. So if all of a sudden, God forbid, and I'm not putting any jinxes on anybody, Currencies Direct unfortunately goes out of business, for instance, something terrible happens overnight, and I've sent you a load of money the day before, my funds are safe.
100%. So just to give you an example, there was a bank in the United States last year, or was it maybe earlier this year, called Silicon Valley Bank. They collapsed. They went into a lot of difficulties. The FDIC came in the day later, and everybody got their money back within 48 hours. So it was quite a remarkable thing to see a bank close. And we talk about what would happen in that instance, and every client is going to get their money back. But actually to go through it and see that happened firsthand and that everybody got their money back actually showed that there was something working in the system. And that's something that, again, should provide people with a lot of comfort when it comes to things like that. But in this instance, money would be refunded in exactly the same way. It would be credited to you to do whatever you like. And what happens is the bank doesn't close down. They don't shut the accounts. They just make sure that everybody has enough money to be able to transfer the money out at their earliest convenience.
Superb. I'm going to start winding down, but I just want to get through a couple of things. And the last, I'll come to the last question. I just quickly want to answer this one that Michael's saying. I don't know if you missed it earlier, Michael, because he's saying, will any saving you make outweigh keeping your money in a 5% plus savings account? If you watch earlier on in the video, Michael, we do mention that you can actually make a deal and you only pay 10%. So you could order 100K. If I'm right, David, keep nodding your head. If I want to order 100K from you now for whatever, I can pay you just 10%. The other 90% of my money, I can put in this 5% savings account and say, I'll settle up with you, David, in 2 years' time. You say a maximum of 2 years. Is that correct? That we can hold the deal. So you take 10% of my money. The other 90, I can do whatever I want with, as long as I settle in the date that's agreed and it's within 2 years.
I like it because you're locking in the exchange rate, so you know what it is, and you're also building yourself a buffer. So the exchange rate might go in your favor. You might make money on the exchange rate and in your savings, but in the instance of you losing money because the exchange rate or whatever has gone the opposite direction, you've made 5% on your interest to kind of cover any losses. So we would call that like a natural hedge when you're talking about buying and selling securities or currency. So again, a good thing to do if you're looking for a strategy to, make good decisions with your money.
Brilliant. Okay, last question. Even though I am looking in the background and seeing somebody's watching the new Beatles song, I think it is, or there's something on the TV behind. Anyway, last question. So it all sounds fantastic. I'm telling everybody to sign up to you guys. Again, I'm going to mention it. It's in the description on Facebook. There's a link there. If you click on that, it will go through to Currencies Direct. Sign up for a free account. Suggest all of you do it. It's not going to cost you anything. You don't have to send any money. Do it. Then have a look around the website and then get in touch if you want. If you want David to contact you direct, you can send me an email and then I'll send him a WhatsApp in the middle of the night just to ask him to contact you. So feel free to do that. Make sure you open the account. Everybody's going to say, sounds brilliant, but how do you make money?
Yeah, we make money on buying and selling the currency. So again, we're buying huge volumes. We're working in very small margins. And the way we make money is just simply the transactional volume that we're doing as a company. I think last year, about 12.6 billion US dollars worth of currency was exchanged. So again, we're making very small margin, but these aren't your average transfers. These aren't transfers for $1,000 or $2,000. They're large, big ticket items that we know banks are making horrendous amounts of monies from. So we're able to go in there, beat the bank's rate, make some money on our own, and obviously grow great businesses with people like yourself.
So it's not costing anybody that's watching this. They don't pay you a percent once they've agreed that exchange rate. So you're basically making the money, the difference between the interbank transfer rate, isn't it? The one that the banks do with each other, and what you actually give the client. So first of all, you're going to beat the banks, and you will make the difference between that. It's not going to cost them anything else. You're not going to suddenly turn around and say it's going to cost you €300 to send it to this notary and €300 to send it to that builder. There's none of that, is it? You just make the money from the difference.
Absolutely. That's our whole industry model is, listen, bank beating exchange rates, and then we have different components. So some people specialize in like foreign student fees, for example. A company will specialize in that, as opposed to what we try to do is look at immigration and property purchases and tax liability. That's sort of like the area that we're moving into as a company. So specialize in one thing, being the best at it, and we understand that property purchases, huge ticket items that require some individual information and service, which is what we do and try to go above and beyond to provide.
Brilliant. David, thank you so much again for giving up an hour of your time. Really appreciate it. I'll let you get back to your golf and your Beatles on TV. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention the little Italian flag and the bottle of Montepulciano d'Abruzzo. That's
so any Americans watching, if you're looking for a good, reasonable, cheap bottle of wine, it's about €15 in most Italian restaurants, or $15. It's from Abruzzo, and it is pretty good. My wife loves it. She doesn't know that it only costs $15. You know, she expects it to cost more, but you know.
Well, I'm going to get your wife's telephone number and tell her that it costs about €2 here.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons I find it very spectacular that, you know, you've got a beautiful place. And I saw a lot of Americans actually, and you took them to a view of a place on your tour. And it did look stunning. And when you asked them for that one particular word, when they all shouted stunning from the tour, it did make me chuckle. So congratulations on all your success. You do deserve it. I've worked with a lot of agents like yourself that deal with international clients, and not all of them go above and beyond like you do. So I appreciate working with you, and I know from the clients that we've worked with mutually, they adore you. So thank you for all the service that you do. I appreciate it.
Very kind of you to say that, and thank you as well. So brilliant, David. Thank you so much, and thank everybody in the background for behaving as well, and all the rest of it. And we'll speak to you really soon.
All right, take care, David. All the best.
Take care. Bye. Okay, guys, what did you think of that one? I thought it was a great one myself. David is absolutely brilliant. I do think I like the way he works, and we get on really well. And everybody he's dealt with has got lots of good things to say about him. It's so easy, and also when it comes to the stresses, it's not so much stresses from this side, but the stresses that people go through just before they're going to sign contracts, and obviously you get nerves and all the rest of it. What I can say is they make it so easy. Once I know that Currencies Direct have your money, Once I know that, I just know it's so easy to get it to the notary. It takes no time at all. Sometimes we have people that have used banks, and then all of a sudden the bank won't transfer the money because they want you to go in branch, they want you to give more security, they want this, they want that, the other. I've never had any problems whatsoever with them, which is why we recommend them so much, because I just know as soon as they have it, we can all relax. The money's here straight away as soon as they send it off. It just makes life so much easier. So yeah, fill out the and remember this goes for anybody in the world. It's not. I know we've spoken a bit about the US, but that's because obviously David's based over there. But this is for anybody in the world. Get onto the Currencies Direct website. Use that link that's in the description, because then they know that it comes from a home in Italy. And if you contact me and say, Dave, I've registered, I'm ready to do something, I could really do with talking to David just to talk me through the last few things, he will happily do that. And he's done it to so many people. So there you go. Register with them, and we'll have him on again before Christmas. Thank you so much for joining in. We'll be back again next Thursday. I've not done November's programs as yet, but I will publish them on Monday. We'll have a great November together, leading up to, dare I say it, Christmas. We're nearly there. Oh my word! Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks again for all the support, and see you really soon.